all this refined oils came the last 100 years, and look at the amount of diabetes and heart disease, and clearly that is to fault. Although that reasoning is wrong, because the life expectancy in India at 1947 was like 40. So in India we heat oil to very high temperatures, but the moment you heat them, you've lost whatever benefits of whatever extra you paid for.
For parenting tips, celebrity interviews, recipes, conversations with experts, DIYs, and lots more. Subscribe to Kids Talk Press now.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Kids Talk Press. When you are cooking in the kitchen, what happens is that we all have a little rice that comes on from mothers, grandmothers, and we kind of just go with it. Like, the chana cup, you put the potli in the chana, or you have a chalk and there's a particular way of doing it. But there's a science behind it, and I have somebody with me who is going to make that, and he's going to tell us how that happens and what is the science behind all of this. And actually everything that happens in the kitchen is based on science, and we don't even think about it. So let's dive into it, because I'm super excited to get to know what else he has to say. What is your take on cold pressed oils and refined oils?
There's a very natural tendency to try and say that we've been eating oils in a certain way for thousands of years, and that should be the healthier way because we have evidence that it did not harm people. And so, whereas all this refined oils came the last 100 years, and look at the amount of diabetes and heart disease, and clearly that is to fault, right? Although that reasoning is wrong, because the life expectancy in India at 1947 was like 40. Okay? So most people died young.
Yeah.
So they died before they got cancer and diabetes. That's the point, right? And the ones who survived were all genetic freaks. Like, they were already pre-selected to be super healthy. So everyone is like, my grandfather was so healthy. Yes, because 3 of his siblings died in childhood. He is the lucky one, right? So people forget that, right? People had like 7 children, right? Only 3 would survive, right? So people only have 2 children. And I think the people forget that in the modern day, because of medicines and vaccines and all that, lack of malnutrition and all of that, people with very poor genetics and unhealthy lifestyles are living up to 80. And so visibly you see them with diabetes, you see them with arthritis, you see them with all of these things. In pre-1940, they were being dead by their 40s. So this is something that people don't kind of recognize, right? So therefore the way I see it is that, and again, so cold pressed and refined oils, fundamentally they're both fat, okay, at the end of the day. Amount of fat in your diet is far more important than what fat you eat. And you can find research that tells you ghee is healthy. You can find research that says ghee is unhealthy. You can find research that says coconut oil is unhealthy. You can also find research that says it's unhealthy, right? People demonize palm oil here. Palm oil is the default fat in Malaysia, Indonesia, several parts of Africa, and people are quite healthy, right? So clearly the problem is fats are complicated. They have a ton of calories, 9 calories a gram. So you get a lot of calories in a very short amount of time. There are genetic variations in how people process it. So there are some people, clearly a lot of people in Punjab can consume all the butter and ghee they want, and they seem to be quite okay. Mm-hmm. But there are other people, if they consume a lot of ghee, arteries are going to get clogged. So there are genetic variations as well. So the problem with a lot of this is that it's impossible to provide universal advice on what is good or bad, right? But cold press oils, one, they're more flavorful, but the moment you heat them, you've lost whatever benefits of whatever extra you paid for. So the flavor comes from things that are not fat, right? The other phytochemicals, polyphenols and all that, which are all heat sensitive. So in India, we heat oil to very high temperatures, tadka and all of that, right? Moment the temperature of oil is over 100, you've lost all of those molecules are destroyed. So you're paying extra for really nothing much, right? If you really want to enjoy the values of cold pressed oil, use them in salads or use them in very low temperatures, like, very light saute and so on. So the way I normally say it is, because the evidence is so complicated, eat as many different fats as you can. In fact, the good approach is, if you're eating a Bengali dish, cook it with mustard oil. If you're eating Kerala dish, cook it with coconut oil, and eat 4 or 5 different fats, because we don't know which one is good or bad. But you focus on keeping overall fat consumption low and keep saturated fats to about 10% of calories and so on is about the only consensus that people have. Everything else is tricky. We know monounsaturated fats are probably relatively slightly better in terms of evidence than polyunsaturated, but it's all complicated. So the way I would say it is that use cold press oils for very light sauteing and use refined oils for deep frying. if you're making puris, the temperature has to be 180, 170 Celsius. In fact, you should not be using the cold press oils because they will burn and smoke and create carcinogenic substances. You do not want to use cold press oils for deep frying, right? Exception being mustard oil, which is remarkably high smoke point,
the smoke point is
even in the kachi,
Kachi dhani.
yes.
Yeah, I think you're right, because for me, when I use different kinds of things, it's depending on what I'm cooking. So if I'm cooking my Bengali food, then I will definitely use my mustard oil.
Yes.
A little bit of ghee when I'm doing North Indian, and like you said.
Yeah.
So it's about, for me, it's more about the flavor.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are very, very stringent about what they...
It's sort of, a lot of people, because of social media, people focus on the pickpocket and ignore the bank robber, right? Basically, amount of fat is the bank robber, and you don't pay attention to that. Cardiologists say that you should eat, an individual should eat 500 ml of fat a month.
Okay.
That's 1 tablespoon a day. Do you think we eat just 1 tablespoon of fat a day? Way more. We eat 3 times more. So first focus, if you bring that down, then it doesn't matter what you're eating. It could be palm oil for all we care, or extra virgin olive oil, it doesn't really matter. But if you are eating like large amounts of fat, then if you're only eating 1 fat, then you increase the risk that if it so turns out, research finds out that, oh no, there is actually a problem with mustard oil because it has erucic acid. By the way, mustard oil is banned in the US and European Union.
Really?
Yes. So Bengalis who live in the US and Europe, they have to buy mustard oil from Indian stores that has to carry the label not for cooking. And they buy it. It's supposed to be only for hair, but they buy it and use it for cooking. Because mustard oil naturally has high levels of an acid called erucic acid, which for some reason, based on research in the 1960s, Europeans and Americans have said, no, it is unhealthy for the heart. Okay. Despite Bengalis and North Indians and Bangladeshis, using it for centuries, right?
Yeah.
There's lots of, conspiracy theories about the fact that the Canadians genetically modified mustard to make canola oil, right? Which is low erucic acid, and they say that perhaps it's that lobby preventing mustard oil being imported into the US, so that canola oil is what they use. Canola oil is basically low erucic acid mustard-like oil, right? So it's similar, right? But so therefore, the thing is that these are all complicated, right? People will say cotton seed oil is very bad, but the entire cotton belt of India cooks in cotton seed oil only.
For parenting tips, celebrity interviews, recipes, conversations with experts, DIYs, and lots more. Subscribe to Kids Talk Press now.